What happens when the man trained to destroy witnesses becomes one himself? When the smooth-talking attorney who built his career tearing others apart decides to take the stand, thinking he can talk his way out of anything. But this time, the courtroom turned against him, and the fall was brutal. He wasn't just any lawyer. He was the kind who owned the room, the voice that could make jurors lean in, the confidence that made even judges hesitate to interrupt. To clients, he was a hero. To rivals, a storm in a tailored suit. But behind that perfectly rehearsed smile was a man juggling secrets, financial problems, risky clients, and whispers of deals that were never quite clean. At first, no one dared question him. He'd won too many cases, charmed too many people. But whispers started spreading through the courthouse. Money missing from trust accounts, unusual transfers, expenses that didn't add up. He brushed it off as jealousy. After all, who wouldn't envy success? Until one morning he opened his email and saw the subject line every lawyer dreads. State Bar Notice of Investigation. That's when the mask cracked. Prosecutors began quietly digging. What started as a disciplinary check spiraled into a full criminal case. They accused him of fraud, deception, and abuse of his legal power. The irony was painful. The man who built a career arguing for justice was now fighting for his own freedom. And when the charges went public, reporters called it the trial that would put arrogance on the witness stand. Inside the courtroom, he sat not at the counsel's table but at the defendant's. Cameras lined the back wall. Commentators whispered every move. Prosecutors painted him as a manipulator, someone who used his law degree like a weapon. The defense insisted he was a victim of his own ambition. Too confident, yes, but not corrupt. And then came the moment that changed everything. He decided to testify. It was the boldest and dumbest move of his career. Friends warned him, "Never put yourself on that stand." But he couldn't resist. This was his arena, his home turf. He'd cross-examined hundreds of witnesses. How hard could it be to survive one more? The courtroom went silent as he stood up. Every camera zoomed in. His voice at first was steady, almost rehearsed. He told the jury he was framed, misunderstood, the victim of office politics and envy. The jurors watched closely. Some even nodded. For a moment it seemed like he might actually pull it off. But then came cross-examination. The prosecutor's tone was calm, almost surgical. She pulled out email after email. Dates, figures, transfers. Each question landed like a hammer. He started to stumble, then contradict himself. What began as confidence turned into confusion, then frustration. He snapped at the prosecutor, corrected himself mid-sentence, and at one point muttered, "That's not what I meant." But by then, the damage was done. Jurors exchanged looks. The man who once commanded courtrooms now looked cornered, sweating, trapped by his own words. Even his defense attorney glanced down, realizing they were watching the slow-motion collapse of their entire case. Clips from that day flooded social media. "Attorney destroys himself on the stand," one caption read. Memes, reaction videos, TikToks dissecting every grimace. He'd become viral for all the wrong reasons. Legal commentators called it a masterclass in what not to do when defending yourself. When the jury returned, their decision took less than a day. Guilty on multiple counts. The same man who once walked out of courtrooms a winner, now left in handcuffs, his name stripped from the bar, his reputation in ashes. He didn't say a word as the judge read the sentence. He just stared forward, as if still cross-examining the air, searching for a loophole that wasn't there. After the verdict, everything unraveled. His firm erased his name from the door. His colleagues stopped answering calls. Even his family avoided the cameras waiting outside. The man who once lived for attention was now hiding from it. Every headline used the same haunting image. His expression at the verdict, caught between disbelief and regret. In interviews later, jurors admitted something chilling. "We might have given him the benefit of the doubt," one said, "until he took the stand." It wasn't the evidence alone. It was his arrogance. They said he looked like a man performing, not defending, and that's what sealed his fate. Now his story is taught in law schools as a cautionary tale. Not about guilt or innocence, but about pride. The belief that intelligence can outsmart truth. The illusion that knowing the rules means you can bend them forever. And maybe that's the tragedy. Because somewhere beneath the scandals and the lies was a man who once loved the law, until he thought he was above it. He thought he could out-argue the truth. But in the end, the truth cross-examined him. So now, the question's yours. If you were on trial for your life, would you take the stand? Or would you sit in silence and let someone else tell your story?